morning.
How are you doing today, Corval?
I'm doing all right. I've got my Whole Foods Vietnamese coffee.
Oh,
I've got my Santa's Little Helper cookie.
this is quite a breakfast going on here.
Yeah, this is nutritionally balanced. Watching those morning routines really inspired me to kick it up a notch.
Yeah, the guy's like swimming and rubbing bananas on his face, and yeah.
But the thing I got from those videos is that guy is so tremendously poor. Like the cheapest fucking water bottle.
The Saratoga water, man. What's up? What's going on with that? I mean, it's got to be like a deal or something, I imagine.
He's got to be something. I mean, otherwise, why would you drink that swill? When you could drink
tap water,
Vietnamese coffee.
You should try taking a Vietnamese coffee bath. See how it goes.
I feel like it would be great, dude.
Mr. Clean says he's got his ice bowl ready.
What I like about Mr. Clean is he's always on task, always ready to get things popping. What about you, Dracula? How about you, man? How have you been? It's been a while, dude. You were MIA, man. I was struck here with these Sonic Labs people.
Yeah, you were on with Assistant and Lewis, but I guess he had to hop off before he even got to like do his thing. So it was like it was just pure Corval and Assistant time.
Yeah, I felt bad, but the Assistant he was dropping shit. I don't think he was allowed to say, bro.
Yeah, he was definitely dropping alpha.
Look at that green line, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like where we were.
Big facts, Mendoza. See, we're rich for today.
For a few hours. Yeah, I mean, looking back on last week, we were having one of those like it's over moments. Felt pretty confident. We were more like dealing with like a correction. I think the tariff scares are kind of like, they're kind of getting diluted in their effect on the market. You're still getting those like sharp moves and like little mini crashes, but I feel like things are correcting faster and faster after every little scare. Mm-hmm. There was also rumors of like a Fed pivot coming, which probably is driving the market, a lot more than some of these other factors. So yeah, I mean, this is the Bitcoin Weekly. It's looking good to me. We had a big drop off, but it seems like nature is healing.
What is that green one that's moving, like the trailing moving average or something?
Yeah, this is a volatility weighted moving average. I got it on a shorter time frame on 21 because this is the weekly, but pretty powerful when you're going on like higher time frames. But I like this moving average because it's got some kind of formula that it's not just like a simple moving average. It kind of like takes into account extra volatility that crypto has. So pretty powerful on the Bitcoin Weekly chart. But
things are looking bad. We got Donald Trump's out here begging on his hands and knees for them to lower their interest rates. You saw this? The breaking news?
There was speculation that there was like a 4D. We talked about this on the show one time where it's like when it comes to people that believe Donald Trump's always playing 4D chess, it's hard to tell if he is or he just is, doing something crazy and doesn't care. But the theory was that a lot of this volatility was to kind of force the Fed's hand to pivot on rate cuts. And whether that's true or not, it seems like we're on track for that. So the market's having a reversal. So Bitcoin Weekly is looking good. I mean, we're going to probably have a battleground here getting back up over 90K. Prepare for that. I would imagine we might, hit this and bounce off a couple times, but maybe not. Maybe we just blast through it because if you look at the S chart, they just blasted through their resistance, no problem.
That's right.
Yeah, this is the S daily.
I hope Adam Coxswain and Ansem didn't trick you into selling all your coins, did they?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good right now. Everybody's kind of green today, but Sonic, I almost said Phantom. Sonic has been, as we've like said on the show before, Sonic's been kind of like definitely outperforming the alt ones, but outperforming a lot of other chains as well. So been pretty resilient. I mean, who knows where we would be right now if we didn't have to deal with this recent, this nuke that we, had to deal with the initial tariff scare and everything.
Let me check something real quick. Let me see if my protege's chart actually is playing out. It seems like it might actually be. This is crazy.
Is it scribbled on a napkin?
Yeah, I'm leafing through my Rolodex right now trying to find it. Oh, whatever.
Well, let's look at the heat map.
I'm pretty sure it is, though. He was calling for a slight retracement after that pump, though.
Oh, after the recent move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense to, we're having a little bit of like recovery here. It's hard to tell right now. Macro just, has such a big effect. It has an effect on the stock market, and the crypto market is now so correlated with the stock market. So whether you like it or not, it's like there are people that trade strictly on macro. I'm not one of those people, but I do think obviously it has a big effect on the market. So
you are a believer. I gotcha.
Somewhat, maybe about 30-40%, right? I mean, because we've also seen the market be completely irrational to macro before. So, I think it definitely has an effect, but I don't think it's the end all be all, because the market's kind of just going to do what it wants to do sometimes. But I think everybody should be happy today for the most part.
Even this voitards, dude. Look at them.
This is the best the heat maps looked in, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks.
It's kind of awesome, dude, because it still is like kind of sickly looking. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's still got some stuff that's, down bad, but
you look into the abyss, it's like red.
But what I wanted to also check on is we're just watching this dominance chart, just never relenting. Bitcoin at 62% dominance. Like, we're always checking this dominance chart just based on like, are we ever gonna get like are we ever gonna have that alt season, which we've been, everybody watches Bitcoin dominance because we need it to go down. If we're looking at like historical data, we need Bitcoin dominance down to about mid to low 50s before we can even think about it. And it's just unrelenting.
The ETFs will never allow it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, sometime mid last year where it was maybe even like positioned to be a possibility.
That video you played in the opening with the guy looking at the Bitcoin chart, and he's like, it's the highest I've ever seen it, $100. I'm in awe. He had $110,000 at $100 Bitcoin. So what he's got, like,
if he held it,
if he had never sold a single one, it'd be what, like,
he would be doing pretty well. I mean, if he
too stupid to do the math right now. Yeah, the question is whether or not what really struck me about that video is like how unique of a point in time that is in terms of like I can't think if anyone in chat can give me an example. I don't think there's ever been any other point in history of holding like such a speculative asset that is almost entirely motivated by some sort of like moral belief as Bitcoin. Like a lot of those people that held it, right? Like they either have some of them were thinking like, oh, this shit is going to take over the world. But a lot of them were more like, I'm holding this. The same reason people hold Monero, they're like making like a point, Yeah. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's an
to be rewarded so heavily for that is crazy. Like, like gold has always been valuable.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it is like an interesting point where it's like, has there ever been an asset that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it could just be worth zero. It could have never done anything.
Yeah.
It is true. It's almost like,
and it was so accessible to anybody. It wasn't like, I guess that's like the big thing that sets it off from so much speculation is like, or like so many other examples through history is like, I could have bought like stock in some company that was like worthless and then it exploded in value, but it's like, it's still very different. Yeah, I guess it falls in saying like Amazon was an online bookstore, maybe.
Yeah, I remember that when that's all they did was there was like, oh, they ship books. That's
whenever I think of Amazon, I think of that Futurama episode where what's the accountant Jamaican guy? Anyway, he gives his son like $1 and he's like, what are you gonna do with it? And his son's like, I'm gonna invest it. And he's like, in what? And he says Amazon. And he goes, oh, risky better, huh? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and it lends itself to like talking about this Bitcoin dominant stuff. I had a little post just about this idea we've been talking about where I'm starting to become more and more a believer in this idea that if you look at how S has performed against the rest of the market, especially alts, maybe I'm just convincing myself, but it's like I am almost starting to believe that maybe Bitcoin dominance is never going down again. and that the new normal is really just going to be, there's not going to be this flow of Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then alts, then exotic alts. I am starting to believe maybe it is like the pattern of you are more so looking at now. There's Bitcoin dominance, and then there's just extra liquidity, and it's just going to go where people can get the best, the best bang for the buck. You know what I mean? Like, and right now, Sonic, I mean, it's just like, is there anywhere else you can move your liquidity and earn so much in the ecosystem? I can't, being like pretty heavy in DeFi. I mean, during the bear market, I was spread out all over the place because you had to like hunt for yield. And it's like, there's just nowhere else right now where you can do the things that you can do on Sonic with just about any asset. I mean, they got all the majors covered, which is big. So it is like a thesis that I'm starting to subscribe to, where I'm like, maybe we're not going to have this like alt season flow that we're used to. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's going to be like this. It's going to be Bitcoin moving around. There's corrections, there's new all-time highs, whatever. And then you're just kind of seeing these like liquidity phases with whatever, can capture that mind share.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might be healthier. I don't know. It just seems like the next logical step for the space to go to, right?
I think it does.
Like a big part of like why we had, I've heard this thesis tossed around, but a big part of why we had alt season is because we had SBF and CZ essentially just doing like funding for literally just any project that knocks on their door for like a long time.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much money flowing that, especially like SBF's fund,
Alameda.
They were just dumping money into like anything, but they had a little strategy of their own. I mean, they were basically, for all intents and purposes, they were basically just running like a little P&D machine, something like the Solana retail meme pump and dump culture, whatever. It was kind of like, that's basically what they were just doing with like just about any project that they could, get a large stake in. But yeah, there was a lot of that going on, which was always, pushing money into alts, making people speculate on alts more. Definitely in that time frame, people were speculating on alts a lot more than they are now.
Yeah. I think he kind of made it more of like a all around like alt. He turned like all of crypto into like Miss L needed the shirts so damn much.
I can't lie. I miss it too.
They would just like pump random shit, right? Essentially. So it's like pump fun, but like for every chain.
I don't even know if everyone remembers this, whether you were like around last run. It was probably even like very early pre-run because Solana just turned 5 years, which is crazy. But I remember when they were basically going to pick like a winner that they were claiming would be like kind of like the back end of FTX, which I don't even think that ended up true. And everybody had all these like speculations, and it was like this jaw drop moment when it was like, it's going to be this chain called Solana, which by the way, we like basically own it now. I mean, everybody was just like shocked. Like, what is Solana? Like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how they did things, and there was, I think I think they just liked to hyper gamble.
Yeah.
They were talking about Caroline from FTX kind of managing that Alameda fund, and how like on the tail end of like the bull market, I mean, that's how the whole thing collapsed, was that she was like 5 billion under in like the fund, because they were just throwing stuff at the wall. Really, they were just hyper gambling.
I was always thinking that video, and because I don't know if it makes me feel partially insecure, but also partially superior. Like, I don't know how to feel about it. Is that clip of her where she's doing the interview and she says, well, you don't really need stop losses when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe she does know what she's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess history has proven she didn't know what she was doing, but was it the lack of stop losses that was it?
Yeah, they were like talking to her about risk management, and she like kind of just like giggled and was like, no, I don't do that. Like, no.
No, I just buy 50 million of the token. Wasn't the VC and family interest for Solana worth sense? Might have been why.
Yeah. Yep, that's another famous point, is that the original VC rounds for Solana were like, I mean, single digit cents. So I don't remember what the price was, but it is that's why there's still people to this day dumping. I mean, who knows how much they have.
So like for the situation we're in now, then like if we were to think like, we have a lot fewer catalysts like that in terms of like actors out here who are motivated to purely just pump and dump and have the ability to do so on like these massive market cap tokens, right? Like that's almost kind of like the desire a lot of people seem to have for like TradFi to come in, is what TradFi is going to do, is they want like Meryl Schwab to come in and buy like $20 trillion worth of fart coin or something.
Yeah,
but
and I mean,
these firms are not like, there's a reason SBF is in jail, and these guys, they don't go to jail, they pay fines. You know what I mean? It's because they don't engage in this kind of behavior.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that we've talked about this on the show before too, where there was a time, it was like you can't have your cake and eat it, right? Where everybody was like, oh, there's going to be like a crypto decoupling from the stock market. But yet at the same time, everybody's like, we want the TradFi billions to come into the market. And, you just can't have both, really. Not that there was anything anyone could do to stop it. I mean, it was inevitable. But what's interesting is that I think part of what you saw in the bear market was a lot of VCs and a lot of big capital. They shifted from investing in projects to investing in infrastructure, because they realized that, why invest in a project when you can help fund like a new chain or a new L2 or whatever, and you're like essentially guaranteed a certain amount of X's.
Yeah.
And that was the shift. I mean, you rarely hear about projects so much being like, oh, we just, like you hear about it sometimes, but you don't hear about it as much, where it's like, oh yeah, we just had a seed round, we just had a second round, we just,
that meta is kind of played out now, right? It's because like the over dilution of like the chain. Well, I guess it still happens. You still see new chains launching like all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they were launching L2s like someone could launch shitcoins. I mean, it was like, it was just too much.
Silicon Valley became pump fun for fucking L2s, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what happened, really. But to further play into this idea, I mean, we like to check in on the TVL just because, Sonic has just been ripping on the TVL still.
Yeah. I wanted to say, like, in this new realm then of like where there's not someone just going around speculating on like just doing this pump and dump machine on everything, when we are matured, like Sonic is in a good position in terms of having a fully established, as we said, like DeFi suite. It's fast, it's effective. So it has like what it takes to compete, I think, in this like new kind of, we're not just waiting for like the next cycle. Like now it's like we're getting to the point where these are actual businesses and they need to accomplish business goals. And I think I'm happy to see it. And I think Sonic's the place to be for it.
Yeah. I mean, the tech is there. They came out with like a focus on like building like a robust ecosystem, which I think is really like something that a lot of these chains launch and didn't seem to like focus on. And I've seen it happen so many times, especially on the L2s, where, you have the launch and the airdrop campaign, but then it's kind of like at the root of everything, there's only like maybe a couple actual protocols that are doing real volume and that people are actually interacting with, right? And then when the airdrop campaign ends, the whole thing's just a ghost town. It's a shell. And then by then, the L2 stuff is set up, and these guys are just collecting free Ethereum for eternity.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a very distinct model that you can see run over and over again, where even if it costs, I don't know, let's say it costs 250,000, in all your payments and everything else to run a chain, you're still making like 500,000, $1 million in Ethereum every month. You got some like skeleton crew keeping everything running, it's easy.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, going back to the idea of like mind share and all that stuff, I mean, Sonic TVL up 83% in the last month. I don't think there's anybody even close to that, at least in like the top 20. Says had like a 90% jump as well, but still not even close to what Sonic has like gathered in TVL, which, we've now passed Polygon, Core, and Hyperliquid. So that's the next one on the ladder. Aptos.
Next up on the hit list.
We get past Aptos, and then we're really we're really about to break in here on the top 10, the heavy hitters. But, with this USDC news and they're, the airdrop is like heavily incentivizing bringing majors over. The protocols are like giving better yield on majors than like anywhere else. I think this continues to grow. I mean, and now we have like A and Pendle, Silo doing its thing in terms of just like ways for people to like do things with, their majors. That eventually flows into, LSTs of Sonic and alts on Sonic and all that stuff. So we're still in really good shape. I mean, I think that they've made all the right moves to emphasize that, we want you to bring your Ethereum. We want you to bring your Bitcoin. Don't leave it just sitting somewhere, not earning anything. Bring it here. And every day that TVL is increasing.
Oh, yeah. I love to see it, dude. Although sometimes it makes you worried, dude, because really all I need, to facilitate my own retirement here is I just need for Shadow to stay exactly as it is, price-wise, volume-wise, everything. To stay the same or get better. I don't know.
Yeah, to keep your CL position in range.
Yeah, I just gotta keep my CL position in range just for as long as possible.
Well, further like touching on this idea of like mind share and TVL versus just like waiting for alt season. This was like an interesting, this project called Dexu, where they basically, scrape Twitter and everything else to kind of like, get an idea of like what's happening with like mind share on the timeline. And I thought this was pretty big. They're saying that here's like a chart, and right now, I mean, Sonic right after the majors, which, I think you got to consider Solana a major at this point. I do. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, then straight into S, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah. We got to get the dialogue bumping on S, dude. I saw some coalitions forming on the timeline the other day, people throwing together group chats and the like.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's part of that's part of what's happening, though, is that when you like make these opportunities for majors, it's like undeniable. So, keeping like incentivizing that, and then also having, the protocols incentivize that, the airdrop incentivize that. Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of like the next phase we're at now is we have to see what happens after the airdrop, right? We have to see if we've been successful in making it sticky. And I think it looks pretty good because, Sonic is a unique situation where, we already had like a community from Fantom and users from Fantom. So we're not in a situation where, everyone's descending upon some new chain to farm the airdrop and then they're done and they go, okay, well now I'm going back to like the things that I usually use, until the next airdrop. I think we're, positioned really well with all the unique protocols and opportunities that, I think that we will see this liquidity be sticky. And I wouldn't be surprised, if we're finally busting into that top 10 by like summer.
Dude, you know what they should do? They should just give me the airdrop now. They should just give the airdrop now. Hold on. They just give the airdrop now. And then everyone is trapped here because they're like, okay, now where are you going to go? What are you going to go farm on AVAX, dude? What are you going to go blast? Get real.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I have an advance on my airdrop, bro?
No, but like then they'll be stuck. They'll have to use the airdrop here on Sonic, and then DeFi season forever.
DeFi season forever. That should be the next, the next move in the campaign. It's just called DeFi season forever.
Just Spring Breakers. Let's get Aspen to do a Spring Breakers shot for shot remake with us, but it's like called DeFi forever or something.
Yeah, but
we need some crypto babes.
But yeah, I mean that's going. We're taking significant mind share. Also, I've noticed that FeeM has really started to resonate. I'm seeing a lot of that on the timeline. They've updated this board to where, I mean, you can see now, I think when it launched, it had given away about 300,000 S or something, but it's constantly getting updated with protocols and everything else. And I mean, yeah, I mean, now we're coming up on pretty soon. We'll be at, 500,000 S that has been earned from FeeM. Like we were saying before, it was like you had these people when they were first talking about FeeM kind of being like, oh, I mean, what am I going to earn on, fraction of a penny on gas? Well, it's like those transactions add up, and you can see it right here. I mean, Sakura and Shadow. I mean, Sakura is over 100K in S just from FeeM, which is crazy.
That's nuts.
And yeah, as you go down the list here, I mean, they got almost 80 protocols now. But
Sakura is just like running it up insane style. It's because it's a game, I guess.
Yeah, it's a game. And I noticed like, you sign in and you can kind of like delegate some S to a wallet to do like handle all the gas, and like that way you're not having to like approve stuff every single click. I mean, I think that's still like a hurdle of online gaming is just the amount of TXs that it requires. So for something for FeeM, it's brilliant, right? I mean, it's going to take a lot of gas if you have a lot of users. So, love to see that. Obviously all the major dexes have done really well from it. So I'm noticing, like I said, I'm noticing on the timeline. I'm seeing the noticer. I'm just seeing more chatter about it. People talking about it. That's not just, like a retweet of Sonic Labs or something. I think it's really like making a difference.
I'm trying to think of the most transaction expensive application I could possibly make. You know what I mean? Like, so I could get to the top of this list. What could we possibly do?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of just like a really inefficient contract that just racks up your gas. But,
farm FeeM.
I also saw people, I've seen a couple times people arguing about Blast. Like they're like, well, Blast did it first. Blast was offering, you were allowed to claim the yield, all the underlying yield from your Ethereum and everything. But I mean, I haven't seen anything like this on Blast where even like their top protocols have made any kind of significant, I saw several projects try to work it into their flywheels, but it just never was enough to make any kind of significant, So, I mean, like Fallout says here, like, why would you want to build somewhere else, And I agree. I mean, I think that's what we're starting to see, Aave, we talk about it a good bit, but I mean, Aave, 3 weeks, 220 million in TVL, which was the flip side of the coin. Was there were people doubting FeeM, and then with Aave, there were people going, oh, Aave can't save it. No one's gonna bridge over just to use Aave. Well, what they did was there's just all this like synergy with, borrow something on Aave, put it in the Pendle, take your, PT tokens from Pendle, then put that in Silo. There's just these crazy loops and, all these like synergies between the protocols where it's not just as simple as like, oh yeah, I mean, it's nice to earn decent APY on like lending stables, but you can make way more than that. So I think that people just weren't looking at the big picture of, like, hey, I mean, yes, it can be simple, but for sophisticated DeFi users, it can actually do a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's not so much that like, people want to bridge to Sonic to use Aave so much as they're not going to use Sonic unless they can use Aave there, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
Like to them, it's like a minimum use case, for anything. Kind of like I'm not going to go to a place that doesn't have an ATM or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that is an interesting point. A good point is that there's a lot more complicated stuff to do with it, with like the suite of Ethereum protocols, like using Aave and Pendle together. We should look into getting a specialist on to explain to us the super sophisticated PTYT Aave strategy, because I don't know it, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
every time I try to use Pendle, it's in a disaster for me.
We got to get one of the interns on, whether it's the Silo intern or the Pendle intern. And, I think it's cool. Those, they're always putting out these like, threads where it's like, here's a strategy you can do for this. Here's a strategy you can do for that. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's that is kind of the power of it, is that they can all work together and, You can do all kinds of different strategies with different assets. You know, it just lends itself to the whole like this having like a robust eco and making that a priority. You know, it's almost like if you make the eco robust, the TVL is going to come.
Yeah.
I mean, just on its own.
I think I think the build community has also been kind of necessary. Like it's like growing crops, you know. You need the field and you need the seeds.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's definitely been a factor is that, you know, some of this is kind of like unknown because there just hasn't been a scenario before where there was something like Phantom upgrading to Sonic.
Yeah.
But I do think having that existing community and already like greatly expanding on that is just going to make a big difference compared to, you know, just a random L2 that has a 3 or 4 month airdrop program and then everybody leaves and there's just, you know, like one place that people swap, maybe like a couple meme tokens. It's like, you know what I mean? I think it's only going to keep growing from here.
Right on with you. I think Phantom's in a great spot. So any of the haters that comment on this and say it's washed, you're wrong, dude.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at the numbers. I mean, there's no way getting around it, really. You know, speaking of also large protocols working on things, Beefy has been like a really big Sonic supporter, and they kind of just dropped a little teaser that I'm guessing from the looks of this, we're looking at a possible Beefy LST, I think, maybe. I'm not sure if it's an LST. I mean, obviously it's a teaser, so they're not gonna like lay it all out yet, but not sure if it's an LST, maybe a stable. But my money is probably on a new LST where, you know, Beefy being Beefy, you could probably, I'm sure they could find ways to boost that yield on an LST and make it interesting. So definitely excited to see what they do here.
Yeah, I'm curious about a Beefy LST. They're yield maximizers, aren't they?
Yeah, so, you know, Beefy's just compounding vaults and strategy vaults where you can take like your existing positions and get them pumped up, you know, where they'll compound rewards for you to keep building that position where, you know, usually, you know, if you're having to do it manually and go do it 2 or 3 times a day, that can get pretty tough, especially if you have like positions all over the place. So I'm a big fan of Beefy just because they also, you know, always have had like this really top notch, just like security, tons of audits. They put security first. So it's like Beefy's like, you know, it's kind of like an Ave or something to me, where it's like you can pretty much rest easy, you know, like to my knowledge, there's never been any kind of hack or like anything. So that's another protocol that, you know, people kind of, you know, like auto compounders are kind of, and like yield optimizers are kind of like popular lower hanging fruit that people fork often. And, but, you know, similar to Ave, I know people that are just like, yeah, I'm not putting my money into a compounder unless it's Beefy.
That makes sense. Because there is like, it is like easily forkable, like, I guess, contracts, but it's like a higher like risk framework, I guess, or worse like risk profile, because it's like, it's an interesting thing. It's like a very easy thing to copy, but it's also very risky to use. So because it's a, you're entrusting money to a contract, just doing a bunch of transactions with it. So yeah, I've heard that before too. Like Beefy is like the gold standard for these kinds of things.
Yeah. So whatever they're working on, I'm hoping it's an LST because I have a feeling, like I said, I bet they have like, you know, some idea of how they can crank that APR on it, which would be really nice.
They're definitely cooking something, these guys.
Yeah. So looking out for that. And I think last thing we were going to cover today, this is just also kind of like a little bit of housekeeping, but we feel like people should know. They have like modified the point system on your dashboard. So don't freak out. Don't freak out if you go and look at your points and it's not like millions anymore. They have dropped it 1,000x, but your position is like staying the same. So I kind of like seeing the millions and millions. It's kind of like unit bias, you know? I kind of liked seeing like hundreds of millions of points or whatever.
You could tell yourself it was $1 each or something. You know?
Yeah. You're like, this is definitely going to be $1 a point, and I'm going to retire in June. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. You know, people being like, what happened to my points? But they do have a little disclaimer here, which, you know, it's funny how disclaimers work. They put it in bright blue right under your points, but people are still not reading that. So
Mr. Good Project, hopefully it's not 1-to-1 S now. Buddy. Yeah, dude, it is, bro. That's how much S you're getting.
yeah, 1 point is 1. That's what we're shooting for here. But
I don't know.
But yeah, don't panic if you go to the dashboard. It's all right. And hopefully you'll just see the giant blue disclaimer and know that you're okay.
I wonder why the assistant chose to do this. Is he just like didn't want people to retire? Is that what it was?
I'm not really sure what the reasoning is, but you know, I get it. They want it to be cleaned up a little bit easier to, I guess they just like a aesthetic thing, perhaps.
Possibly. Yeah, I guess it makes it look less dramatic, I suppose.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of liked seeing 200 million or whatever. That was kind of nice.
It made me feel like I was a big dog, even though I was only positioned like 10,000 or something.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all we had for today.
It is
checking in on the chain, checking in on the milestones. Everything's humming along. It's green, it's green for today. The whole market. So enjoy that. Yeah. Hopefully we make it over the weekend. Staying green. Tobias says, yeah.
Tobias, wow, he is really preaching to the choir here. If you have low activity points, learn links, open an options position, put in a delta neutral position. Hey Dracula, before we sign off, I've got financial advice I want to ask you.
What's that?
If I'm opening an LP position, right, and then I open a long position for like, all right, let's say I open like a USDC S position. I open up a long position that has like a liquidation level. Like, wait, no, I want to open a short position. Yeah, short position that has a liquidation at like the upper range of my LP position. How smart of a trading strategy is that?
I mean, it's the problem. The only thing I see sometimes with like delta neutral concepts are just like, unless you're like using like really large amounts of capital, it's probably not always like worth your time. But yeah, if you had like LP and then you did like, I don't know, if it was decent leverage and it was like short term, that probably pays off. I mean, that was kind of one of the things about crypto was that, in the stock market, like you weren't allowed to go long and short at the same time. So basically, I know people that just do leverage trades when they see a big move coming or big announcement. I mean, they just basically open a long and a short and set similar stops, and whichever one rips, rips.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a way to do it. Not, sometimes making those hedges pays off.
All right. I'm gonna go back to the drawing board. I'm gonna come up with an even better strategy.
So, but yeah, that's pretty much all we got today. Friday, I think we have the Origin folks coming back. I got to check the calendar, and we'll be showing you some new derp stuff. So they've added some things to the website, and the rumor is they may have a game coming. So we're going to be checking all that out.
Is it like Super Mario Bros?
It could be. It could revolutionize gaming. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah. I'm excited to see it.
But yeah.
Dr. Professor Funeral.
That's right. So we will see you guys later in the week. Adios.
Peace, fellas.
GMSONIC is Corval and Dracula Presley. GM.